Remember in upper school when that English teacher would always repeat to the class, reading is good for you? Well, I really hope you were listening. As we all know, reading is not exactly considered a major hobby. If I could have a show of hands, who reads for fun? Well, I gotta say, I'm not surprised. Nowadays, teens and adults prefer going on Netflix or Instagram, along with many other activities. But reading still remains one of the healthiest activities for your brain and for yourself. According to researchers at Emory University Center for Neuropolicy, reading a narrative can cause changes in the brain, as when we read, the connection between the left temporal cortex of the brain, which is the area associated with language reception, is heightened, and this activity continues for several days following the reading. But apart from this, books can do so much more. For me, the biggest benefit of all is that books help me find myself. Part of my identity belongs to the stories I read. This can start by the simple action of mirroring, or in other words, recognizing a part of yourself in a character you read about. In a book I read at the beginning of the year, Bliss by Catherine Littlewood, the main character, Rose, has problems understanding how her family, along with other people, feel about her because of her siblings. She thinks she's not good enough because she's not as good looking as her older brother. She's not as funny as her younger brother, and she's too old to be cute like a baby sister. She feels left out, not enough. And there it was, the same things I had thought about myself before. I'm just not enough. But I kept on reading, and I discovered that love isn't always shown through words. And sometimes it's found in the small actions we see every single day, although we might not even realize it. And similarly to me, it happened to Rose. Eventually, in the story, Rose's family told her they loved her. Quote, somehow I always knew they loved me, but hearing them say it helped me remember it. And after that, I thought that if I just opened my eyes, I would have been able to see what the actions of the people around me were telling me. But most importantly, I'd found that I was not alone. There were other people around me that had the same issues I did. And if they could overcome these issues, so could I. As we all know, every book has a lesson or a theme that the reader can identify while they read the story. People are usually keen to find the classic, be yourself, or never give up ideals that spin around a great variety of novels. And yet, although these mottos are pretty inspiring, they aren't exactly what the author is trying to communicate. See, every single novel has its own purpose, a different lesson to teach. In January, I came across this book I've had in my library for about 2 or 3 years, but never really opened it. That was one book that taught me a lesson I will never forget. Some people here in the crowd, especially if you're Italian, you might know this book, Cuore by Edmondo de Amicis. Just the title, Heart, says so much about the story. A story about love, family, friendship, but also about death and sorrow. A story about an Italian kid in the 1880s who almost every day writes about his experience in school. And now, before you get the wrong idea, let me get a couple of things straight. No, he's no bullied kid. No, he's no bully. No, has no secret crush on a girl. And no, he has no family problems. And at this point, you might be asking yourself, then what kind of story is this? Well, this is a story about respect. Respecting those above you, those below you, those older, younger, of the same sex, of the opposite sex, richer, poorer, or from a different country. Our generation has let this go, treating those around them, sometimes even including their parents, in a very disrespectful way. With this, I don't mean and I don't want to generalize, but around me in school and outside, I started seeing that how even with the smallest of actions, respect is lacked and devalued. And I sought to change that in myself. Lastly, I clearly remember when I first started reading Tangled Secrets by Anne Marie Conway. The main character, Maddie, had just lost her grandmother to illness and is gradually losing her self-confidence. Her grades start dropping, she can't concentrate in class, and she isn't even able to talk about it with her best friend. And while I laid in my bed reading, I could just feel what she was experiencing. There are times when I'm not feeling well, but I really just don't have the strength to go and tell somebody about it. I just keep it all bottled up inside of me, told nobody, just like her. Well, this later revealed to me that the events in the book are an indirect way for the author to give the reader advice. For example, in this book, the events in the book are very realistic and they could happen to anyone, which is the perfect opportunity for the author to include through the characters' words and actions, ideas and suggestions for anyone who would find themselves in a similar situation. And so I kept on reading, seeing how she handled the situations thrown at her. And I sought the possibility to do something for myself. What she was going through was a lot tougher than what I would ever go through. And seeing her overcome every single one of her obstacles, I started thinking to myself, I can do this. My journey to open up is still going. But now I've done so many things I would have never done before. I started saying my opinions on topics such as politics as well as less important matters, which in earlier years I had refrained from doing because I thought I would offend someone or be judged. But also, my presence here today is something I would have never seen myself doing. The things I've talked about today, my emotions, my experiences, are something I honestly believe to be private. Yet, here I am, sharing them with you. Although reading is not what most people like to do for fun, its benefits are innumerable. In me, it opened my eyes to a new perspective of how I could live my life, showing me that if I wanted to, I could adjust the parts of myself that I felt stopped me. Reading is not just about the story, but what the story can change in you. Every novel can be a revelation, a benefit. We all deserve to hear a story that helps us discover a part of us. We should all be able to experience a connection to a novel and discover that we are never alone. Reading has shaped me to be the person I am now, and it can do the same for you too. Thank you. God.